It started on a morning that should have been special, my birthday. I woke up to the sound of her phone softly buzzing beside me. Lindsay was already up, lounging on her side of the bed, phone in hand. Her lips curled into a secretive smile as her thumb danced over the screen. I rubbed the sleep from my eyes. "What's got you so entertained this early?" She didn't even glance at me. "Just a funny post from an old friend," she mumbled. Her eyes locked on the display. I sat up, stretching my arms. "What kind of post? You wouldn't get it?" she said with a laugh that felt too forced, flipping her phone face down on the bed. A small, nagging discomfort settled in my chest, but I shook it off. It was my birthday. We had been married for 7 years, built a life together with 2 beautiful kids, and I wasn't about to start reading into things. But when I stood up and caught a glimpse of her screen before it went dark, my heart tightened. Heart-shaped emoticons. I didn't say anything right away. It's amazing how easy it is to dismiss the things you don't want to see. You tell yourself it's nothing, a misread moment, a meaningless gesture. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and once it takes root, it's impossible to ignore. The morning dragged on with a strange tension. Lindsay acted like it was any other day, going through the motions of getting the kids ready for school. No mention of my birthday, no hint of celebration. By the time I kissed the kids goodbye and stepped into the kitchen, I knew something was wrong. I found her there, scrolling through her phone again, the same small smile on her lips. My eyes fell to her hand. She wasn't wearing her wedding ring. It was the missing wedding ring that gnawed at me. I leaned against the counter, watching her pretend I wasn't there. She sipped her coffee, scrolling with one hand, her bare ring finger like a flashing neon sign. "You forgot something," I said. She blinked up at me, all innocence. "What do you mean?" I pointed to her hand. Her eyes followed my gesture. A flicker of something, guilt, panic, crossed her face before she plastered on a smile. "Oh, I took it off last night to clean it and forgot to put it back on. You know how I get." "Yeah," I said slowly. "I know how you get." She stood abruptly, grabbing her phone and brushing past me. "We'll do something nice for your birthday later. Okay? I've got a lot on my plate today." That was it. No hug, no kiss, no happy birthday. The unease grew into a heavy knot in my chest as the day wore on. I tried to brush it aside, work meetings, errands, everyday distractions. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw that damned heart emoji. Later that afternoon, I decided to look at her social media. It wasn't snooping, I told myself. Just curiosity. After all, she had acted weird this morning. When I opened her Facebook profile, my blood ran cold. Dozens of heart reactions on a post from a man I didn't recognize. His name was Josh Carter, and he wasn't just an old friend. I scrolled down and saw comment after comment. Inside jokes, flirtatious quips, and a long thread of messages that reeked of intimacy. My stomach clenched. I put the phone down and rubbed my temples. This wasn't a coincidence. My gut told me there was more to this, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. I didn't need to dig far. The truth was right in front of me, waiting to be acknowledged. I couldn't sit still. The walls of the house seemed to close in, every corner whispering of lies and deception. My heart hammered as I pulled up Find My iPhone, a feature we both had enabled through our linked Apple accounts. I stared at the map. Lindsay's phone was not at the office. She wasn't working late like she had told me countless times before. Her location flickered. Northview Suites, a hotel. The knot in my stomach twisted tighter. I grabbed my keys, barely remembering to breathe as I drove. My mind raced, fueled by every excuse I had ignored. Every business dinner, every last-minute work emergency. They all suddenly fit together like pieces of a dark, horrifying puzzle. When I pulled into the hotel parking lot, her car sat parked near the side entrance. I clenched the steering wheel, my knuckles turning white. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I couldn't leave. After minutes that felt like hours, I saw her. Lindsay stepped outside, smoothing down her skirt with a casual ease that made my blood boil. Her companion, a tall, cocky man with a smug grin, leaned down and whispered something in her ear. She laughed, the sound cutting through me like a knife. I froze, my body trembling with a mix of fury and heartbreak. Every inch of me wanted to storm over there, grab her by the arm and demand answers. But something held me back. I stayed in my car, watching her betrayal unfold right in front of me. She kissed him. The world around me went silent when I saw her kiss him. Time slowed, and every beat of my heart felt like a hammer pounding against my ribs. The air in the car turned suffocating. I wanted to burst out, confront them right there in the parking lot. But something inside me said, "No, wait, make it count." That night, I stayed up, letting my rage simmer into cold determination. I wasn't going to let her spin this into some story where she was the victim. I needed proof, undeniable, irrefutable proof. The next morning, as Lindsay made small talk over breakfast, acting like the perfect wife, I smiled and played along. "You were working late again yesterday, huh?" I asked, my voice carefully calm. She didn't even flinch. "Yeah. Things have been crazy at work lately. You know how it is." I stared at her, the lie sitting between us like poison. "Yeah, I know exactly how it is." That evening, I had the confrontation planned. After the kids were asleep, I sat her down at the kitchen table. I slid my phone across to her, the screen displaying the Find My iPhone log. "Want to explain why your office was a hotel last night?" Her eyes widened, and for a split second I saw fear. Then, just as quickly, she composed herself, a smirk tugging at the corner of her lips. "Are you seriously tracking me now? That's creepy, Matt." I clenched my jaw. "Don't play games with me. I saw you, Lindsay. I saw everything." She crossed her arms, her smirk turning into full-blown defiance. "So what? Maybe if you weren't so boring, I wouldn't need someone else to make me feel alive." I felt the words like a punch to the gut. My hands trembled, fists clenching as I fought the urge to yell. Her words hung in the air, sharp as glass, cutting into me deeper than I thought possible. "Maybe if you weren't so boring." It echoed in my mind like a relentless drumbeat. I took a deep breath, steadying my voice. "I worked my ass off for this family, Lindsay. I've been loyal. I've loved you, even when you didn't deserve it." She rolled her eyes. "Spare me the victim speech. You were never enough." That was it, the last nail in the coffin. I stood slowly, leaning over the table so our faces were inches apart. "You've made your choice. Now I'll make mine." I spent the next few days carefully unraveling her lies in silence. While she played the doting mother, I was 2 steps ahead. I met with a lawyer. I compiled all the evidence, her messages, hotel receipts, the GPS logs. Everything. But I wasn't finished. On the day I filed for divorce, I invited her entire family to dinner at our house. Her parents, her sister, a few close friends. She was glowing, thinking it was a celebration for some imagined milestone in her life. When everyone was seated, I stood up, raised my glass, and smiled. "Thank you all for coming. I've got something to share." I pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. "This, ladies and gentlemen, is a collection of my wife's greatest hits. It details 7 years of betrayal, lies, and hotel visits." Gasps filled the room. Lindsay turned pale, her composure cracking for the first time. "Matt, don't do this," she started. "No," I said, my voice like ice. "You did this. I'm just telling the truth." The fallout was immediate. Her family was horrified. She stormed out, cursing me under her breath. The divorce? Swift and satisfying. Conclusion, lessons, and freedom. Looking back, betrayal teaches you things you never wanted to learn. I learned that trust, once broken, is a wound that never fully heals. But I also learned about resilience, about starting over. To anyone going through this, don't be afraid to face the truth, no matter how much it hurts. There's power in standing up for yourself, even when your heart is shattered. And as for Lindsay, let's just say karma doesn't miss. The end.